Hello, I'm Forrest, and I've got a problem. Today's guest is Chad Anderson. He's a stand-up comedian and has performed at the Winnipeg Comedy Festival, JFL Toronto, and Roast Battle Canada, among others. He's appeared on The Debaters and Mary Walsh's Canada, It's Complicated. His most recent album, Chad Anderson, Live at Lucci's, was recorded with Comedy Records and comes out January 16th, which is in 3 days. So go find that and listen to it. Support Comedy Records, the #1 label for addicts, apparently, because this is the however manyth guest I've had on here. That's from Comedy Records. I'm on Comedy Records. And find Chad Anderson. His website is chadanderson.net. Instagram, TikTok, Threads, X. It's Chad Illmatic. So if you're a Nas fan, I guess you'll get that. And then Facebook, Chad Anderson. Chad, thanks for being here. What's your problem?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. My problem is, or was booze. And, it was booze for a long time. And then someone introduced me to cocaine, and then it became both. And then it basically just kind of became, if you put a drug or something in front of me that was going to get me fucked up, I would do it. No hesitation. I was going to do it. And so, yeah, that was kind of where I realized, like, oh man, this is not good. It used to be like someone introduced me to cocaine, and then I was like, oh man, I can drink way longer when I do cocaine. And so it was like that for a while. And then towards the end, it was like, oh, I'm just doing cocaine without drinking now, and buying cases of beer to make myself feel better. So yeah, there was a lot. I mean, if you want to boil it down, my problem wasn't any of those things. It was myself. There's some program talk for you. I was the problem, or am. Yeah, that's it was mostly booze and cocaine, but
yeah. Well, I love that you said someone introduced you to cocaine. It's very formal. And then there was an introduction. It was like Chad, cocaine, Chad. Anyways, you guys I thought would get along well.
And we did for a bit.
Yeah, that's interesting the way you said that too. Like, because that is a classic one. You can drink longer if you do cocaine, but then eventually you're just doing cocaine and drinking as the afterthought. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, maybe I never even thought about it. Maybe there's some conspiracy out there. I've never even looked this up, that all the alcohol companies are behind the cocaine industry. Maybe they're in cahoots with.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not even a big conspiracy guy. I hate conspiracies. I don't know why I brought that up as a conspiracy, but no. Nicolas Maduro. He wasn't doing what Budweiser wanted or whatever. Like, yeah. Wow. And then, but alcohol and Coke were like the main, those are jams.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and MDMA. There was a lot of MDMA involved as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you're clean from everything, or?
So I was, and this is going to probably piss some people off. But so I was completely clean from everything for 8 years. I was like heavily involved in the programs for 5 years, and then kind of, my life kind of took off, and I got to a point where I was like, oh, I don't think I want this to be my whole personality, is going to AA. So I kind of took a step back, and then I started smoking weed again. I'm at 15 years, no booze or hard drugs. And so 7 years ago, I started smoking weed again.
Yeah, it doesn't piss me off. But in the year that I've been doing this podcast, or almost year, it's clear that it does piss some people off, and I don't want to belabor it because we've talked about it enough in this podcast. But since you brought it up, I just thought that I don't know. I always look at if your life is manageable. That's a big part of it, you know?
Yeah.
And there are people that I've had on this podcast that quit smoking weed because they did that step first. They didn't go like back like you're doing, but then they decided like, oh, that's not good for me either. And then there's other
Mhm.
people I know that are like, yeah, it's fine. Now I just have to go by what they're saying and being honest and stuff. And I know the whole concept of like gateways and this, and it opens you up to this world and stuff. But I don't know. As a comedian, and I'm not telling you how to live your life or anyone how to live your life. I'm a gambling addict. I'm around gambling. Like, if you're a drug addict or an alcoholic and you're a comedian, you're going to be around it, whether you
Mhm.
smoke pot or not, you know? And I know that's not the only reason, but hey, you know, who introduced you to weed though? That's what I want to know.
Well, my friend Devin, grade 7. I'm not originally from. I'm from a small town that's 6 hours north of Winnipeg. Um, it was grade 7. I'll never forget. And he was like, "I got some weed from my mom. I think it was. I don't know. He got some weed from someone, and we went down to from the middle school to this place called Helcra Lake, which is not a lake; it's just like a marsh area. And we hid in a bush, and we made a pipe out of a Pepsi can, and we smoked weed. And I don't even think I got high. Like, I think I was one of those people that like the first time it didn't really affect me. I think because I was like scared, so I didn't really take it in as much as I could.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I was like, I'm so cool. I smoked weed, man. I smoked weed with Devin. And then people thought I was like this badass, but I'm what definitely was not.
Small towns, like a lot of people. I've had other people tell me that living in a small town didn't help your addiction. I don't know. I've lived in big cities my whole life, and there's addicts everywhere. So I don't know if that's like a real. But part of the reason they said is there's not as much to do or like to distract you or something like
Mhm.
that. But uh,
I
I
could
don't know if that's
definitely see it. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's maybe this is like a Canadian thing in general or like a prairie thing, Canadian thing, but like I think like boozing is not really looked at as like a huge problem. Or at least not like when I was growing up in my early 20s. Like it wasn't like people were like, oh, you need to don't drink. People were just like, just be responsible. Just make sure you're at work tomorrow, or, like, and that was it. No one cared how often
yeah,
you were drinking. Yeah.
yeah. That sounds like we were talking about her before we went on the air, but Brittany, she was on here. That sounds like the exact same thing that people were saying to her when she was like, yeah, I mean, drinking's fine. And it is funny. Like there's so much rhetoric right now in this country, as you know, about drugs because of the Venezuela thing and, that whole BS. But they're like, well, don't you want drugs off the street? And I'm just like, I mean, just that argument for this podcast as addiction. I'm like, that's not solving it. It's not going to solve any of the problem. And fuck out of here. Um, but it is funny how many people, and I don't have the data, but how many people must be sitting there staring at their TV that are alcoholics, straight up, just drunk as they're watching it. Just like, yeah, drugs are a problem. And they don't look at alcohol the same way because it's legal. It's
Mhm.
legal. I mean, it wasn't always, but it's legal. And it's, the NFL playoffs are on right now as we're recording this. And there's at least 5 or 6 beer commercials each
Yeah.
ad.
Yes.
Uh,
I do. Although I do see like it seems like the younger generations now are like stepping away from boozing and partying like that,
yeah.
which I think is good. Um,
Yeah, I don't know how old you are, Chad, but
38.
38. Yeah, so I'm 53. I'm an ancient, but I man, sometimes like I'm pretty liberal and not, a lot of ways progressive. I think, but there still is sometimes this caveman that comes out at me when I see like the younger generation, and I'm like, because they're like, like, look at these pansies. I don't say that, but it's almost like, yeah, we're tougher. But
Yeah.
I do look at the younger kids now, teenagers, but even early 20s. And I do think there's in a very, in a very good way, more empathetic and also
Yes.
more self-aware, like
Hmm.
generation. And that gives me hope because it just seems like the world is like a shit show right now, especially living in America. Um, and that's not even a political. I don't care what side you're on. It's not going well,
No.
like everyone's fighting with each other. And it does give me hope that there's enough information for them to make their own decisions without, like they're smart enough to navigate through what AI is and what isn't AI and what's misinformation. That I do believe generation, maybe 20, 30 years from now, I think every place will be. And I think, like you said, I think, not that kids aren't doing drugs or drinking, but it's definitely less of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that everyone's kid I meet is so nice now. Like I'm just like
Yes.
they're like teenagers. I'm like, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. It's man, it was like, at least for my generation, I feel like it was just like promoted to us so hard constantly. Like, you need to be partying. That's what you're young. You need to be out drinking every night and having a good time, and nothing else matters but having a good time. And yeah, it's just, I blame Jersey Shore, honestly. That's,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I know you're kidding, but it's awesome. It's also probably. I mean, reality shows in general are a reality show is not interesting unless they're doing something like that. And most of the time, it's like if it's not partying and getting fucked up, it's some sort of other uh, like just complete the utter, I don't want to say waste of time, but just they're just doing nothing that's like
Mhm.
positive,
Yeah.
like um that being said, I'm perfect, but reality shows wouldn't be interesting otherwise, I
Yeah.
mean, that's like they got to be fighting or fucked up or buying something expensive. Those, I think, they're probably the three pillars of the reality show, like.
Yeah.
So
Just get six people who are completely obsessed with themselves and put them in a house, and
yeah.
that's great TV.
What is something that you like might have been afraid getting sober would like take away from you, like?
I thought I thought um, I was gonna lose all my friends, because like everyone I grew up with they were living that life still. They were still partying, and then I thought, okay, well, if I do this, everyone's gonna stop being friends with me, and it was kind of true. But I don't think people left or stopped talking to me because they're like, oh, well, this guy's not fun anymore. What do we? I think people were like, oh, well, we don't know what to do now. Like, what are we gonna do with you that now that you're sober? Um, and I think a lot of them also were like, even though they were partying and carrying on, they were keeping it together and not going to the places that I was going to. Like most of my friends that would go out and party for Friday, Saturday night, and then they'd go back to work on, Sunday. They'd take it easy, go to work Monday. But if I started partying on Friday night, guaranteed not going to work on Monday, I was like, I never wanted to stop. That was my thing. So I think even though they were there with me for like 75% of the time, they were like, yo, this dude's fucked. Like, you need this. And maybe we should just stay out of your way for a while. It's
You
an
lost some
interest
of those friends.
a little bit, yeah, at least for a bit. Um, it's interesting because like this time 15 years ago, I was just getting out of rehab, and I look back at my Facebook memories from my statuses from back then, and they're all so dramatic and like one day it's like, I'm so happy to be alive and going down this road, and the next day it's like, I hate this, and I'm gonna drink tomorrow. I have no friends. So yeah, it's a good reminder.
What were the comments underneath of that one? I always like those.
It's mostly people just being like, no, dude, like, you got this. Just take it easy.
That's nice.
One day at a time type things, or like reach out to me. I was very fortunate, when I got sober and went to treatment, that there were a lot of young people around, and so like I made friends. I ended up going to an AA group that was mostly people in their late teens or early 20s. And so in some ways it was a very toxic environment. But in some ways it was exactly what I needed also, like, because it was like, I was like, oh, there are people here that are my age and are going through the same thing as I am. 'Cause
Mm.
the first meeting that I went to was like it was in a church, and I went into the basement of this church, and it was nothing but old people. And I was like, I remember sitting down thinking like, oh, I don't think I'm here yet. This is not for me. And I told one of the guys in treatment, and I was like, I don't think I'm meant to go to AA. And he was like, oh no, dude. It was like his second or third time trying to get sober. He was like, no, dude, you got to come to this group. And then he took me to another group. And I was like, oh, okay. This is better. There's young people here who understand me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I moved to LA, I had a really good group that I would go to in Miami. And when I went to the first meeting I went to in LA, I lived in Glendale and or I was near Glendale, and it was all older Armenian men. But I had already been going to meetings for a long time, so it didn't really bump me. But if that would have been my first meeting, I would have been like, and like when I walked in, they looked like they were like, "What the fuck's this guy doing there?" It was all. I mean, I want to say Armenian men over the age of 60.
Oh
It was
God.
the entire meeting. I was like, "Hey guys, what's up? Fresh perspective coming in." But then I found some other meetings, in LA. This is where GA was founded in LA.
Oh really?
Yeah, yeah. GA, the first meetings were here. Not that it makes it better or worse, but there's a larger amount here than in other cities. But yeah, there's you got to drive a little bit further, but there's the ones where and I think that's important too. Is like, find a room that works for you too if you can't. So, but yeah, the friends thing is interesting because there are friends that I had to step away from for
Mhm.
sure. And then I went back to revisit. I'm like, hey, can we be friends? Oh yeah, we can be friends. Because you don't know if they're gonna be a bad influence to you or not. But most of them are supportive. I also think that Facebook thing is interesting because I'm always at the end of my podcast. I always talk about reaching out to people, and I guess that's like a more modern way because that's in fact what you were doing in a public forum, and you might
Mhm.
look back at it and cringe, but it still was not the worst thing to do because if you had the people, that were, I was just worried the comments were shitty under there.
No,
So
there was never any shitty comments, which is actually surprising because I come from like a very blue collar town, like put people and be like, fucking suck it up, stop being a baby. Yeah. So, but no one was really like that. I'm sure people saw that and thought that about me, like, oh, this guy's such a baby, but no one outwardly said it.
what I'm getting from my Canadian friends that have had on this podcast is there's a lot of bullying when it comes to drinking in Canada.
There is, yeah, there definitely is.
um, what did here's when I was like, what did addiction like either slowly or quickly convince you was like normal, like a behavior that was normal that clearly wasn't.
Ooh, um, for me, probably just disappearing from my family or like girlfriends for a whole weekend. Like I would come home from a bender and then be like, "Why is everyone mad? I'm back. Why you? I'm
Yeah.
alive. I'm back. What are you mad at?" And it's like, "Yeah, but dude, we haven't heard from you for 3 days." I was like, "Yeah, but I'm here now. Like, what's the big deal?" And that's yeah. That's I thought it was just normal. I was like, all my friends do this, and like they'd be like, "Yeah, but your friends go home every night and then they go back out and party. You don't. You fall asleep wherever you are and then wake up and keep or like." There'd be cases where like I just wouldn't sleep sometimes and just stay up partying. And like even before I got introduced to hard drugs, like there'd be like I'd be so proud, like, oh man, I stayed up for 72 hours this weekend, drank 100 beers all weekend. It's like, but that's not good. Um, but at the time, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm the coolest guy, man. I drink so much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic one, right? Where you're just like, why are you guys mad? Like, and the addict can't convince themselves or can't see what's right in front of them. Like, of course, these people are gonna be mad.
Mhm.
And then it's so frustrating for people that aren't the addict that are just like, what the fuck? I want to punch you in the face right now.
Yeah.
So much anger. Yeah. Yeah, that's me too. I would disappear a lot too. I guess that's just universal for addicts too. You just want to be in your wherever you're going to be, whether I'm going to be at a casino or just watching games on TV somewhere or whatever. Just nobody. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Mhm.
But yeah. Um. Hmm. Oh, like what's something like what did you like lose because of addiction, and then you like maybe didn't even realize that mattered until after you lost it?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Something that I lost because um oh god. I mean at the toward I was dating this girl and I was so in love with her. Um and I lost her, and then I thought, to be honest, that the whole reason I got sober in the first place was like I need to get my girlfriend back, and this is the only way to do it. So I'm going to go to treatment and show her that I can change. And and God bless her heart, she kind of like kept me kept me on a string. Like she kind of strung me along a little bit. I don't know if it was intentional or like what, or if she was just like, well, let's see where this goes, and then eventually was like, no, I don't think this can be repaired fully, or you know what I mean. We're still friends, and her mom and stepdad actually helped me a lot as well. When I was like waiting to go to treatment, they were like, "You can come stay in our basement," because I was homeless and just like couch surfing and hadn't showered for 2 weeks, and yeah, so they were like, "If he apologizes to us for all the shit that he's caused, he can come and stay here." Um, and so yeah, she kind of like, we would hang out a lot, and I was like, I'm so in love with you. But then um, eventually it was like, she was like, no, we're not ever getting back together. And she like, yeah, I think, I don't know if it was intentional, but she waited until I was like in a stable position. Like it was like a year and a half in before she was like, we're not going to get back together. And I was like, oh, well, I'm already sober, so I guess I'll just keep going. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that, yeah, man, that's for parents, especially. What I'm saying is like, it always takes someone like that to reach out and help. And it's great that you took that because sometimes people just reject that help.
Mhm.
And then, like it sounds like you said you were homeless or you didn't have any place to live in. Like, where would you even be? If you didn't even take that like part of your ego and just like, yeah, I'll sleep on your couch and say sorry and all that, all the stuff you have to do.
Oh, that was tough because I had been living with them too, like beforehand. So this is like thinking about it now. I'm like, oh yeah, I was like so fucked because like I lost my apartment. I lost my apartment because I had gone on a bender and ended up in this like sketchy crack apartment with this guy who lived on the top floor of the building I lived in. But and this guy had like, he was a construction worker and he had fallen 2 stories onto a steel beam or something and broke his back. And so he had a safe in his room full of prescription medication. And I don't even know how I met this guy. But anytime we couldn't get a hold of a dealer, we'd be like, let's call Jason, and then he would hook us up with whatever. And then eventually it would be like, oh, we're gonna go hang out with Jason in his apartment. So then this one weekend, I'm like, I just like went up to Jason's, and we were, this is insane to think about, but we were doing cocaine, or no, we were smoking crack, I think. And then he was like, have you ever shot up coke? And I was like, no. And so he's like, oh, I know how to get the best coke, and we'll shoot it. And so then I was gone for 2 days, just like, yeah, using needles. And then um oh god. And then we ran out of money and we couldn't get any more coke, and I was like, it ended up just being me and him in his bedroom, and we had all the doors barricaded. And I was like, Jason, man, like I don't know if I can handle this come down, like I don't know what to do now. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it, Chad, we'll do an oxy. And I was like, what? He's like, we'll do a half an oxy each. And so he like crushed up this oxy, into powder, split it into two piles, and then we shot it up. And he was doing it for me because I had never done. That was the only time I ever used needles, and he did it for me. And I remember like this wave went over my body, and I was like, oh, I feel so good. But then it was like 1 second before I was like, oh no, this is not good, and I threw up and fell asleep, and was just like, I think that's what like heroin is like, kind of like where you're just like in and out of consciousness for like hours. And then finally I like woke up and I was like, I have to go, man. I have to go. And he's like, I thought you were my friend. I brought you up here. I got you fucked up. And now you're just bailing on me. And like when I woke up, he magically had crack again. And I was like, well, you're holding out on me. It's like, what are you talking about? And so I like just like ran out, went down to my apartment, and then my girlfriend was there with one of my buddies who I think he was staying with me, and he had let her in, and then we got in this big fight, and so she was like, I'm leaving, and she like left, and she had her bike, and she was pushing her bike out the door, and I ran after her like to be like, no, don't go, and I went to push the door open. It was like the fire door in the hallway, and as I was pushing the door open, because she had just walked through, it was closing. And I remember this vividly, seeing as my arms were extending, the door latched fully shut, and my arm just went straight through the window. And like I had huge shards of glass coming through my arm. And so I was like, and the first words out of my mouth were, I didn't mean to do it, because I knew she thought that I like punched it or something, And I was like, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it. And then I lived close to a hospital, so we just like wrapped a t-shirt around my arm and like ran to the hospital. And then my buddy came with me, and she was like, okay, you're fine. I'm leaving, Um, yeah, I don't even remember what the point of this story was. But
uh, well, I don't remember how we got onto it. It's interesting because, first of all, you could have at the end of that done like a Fight Club kind of thing and been like, there was no other guy. It was me. Like, that's what the story almost sounded like. You're like, crack magically appeared. There was no Jason. Jason was the name. Yeah.
yeah,
Man, I was like, it's funny when I have guests on and they say something, and my mind always wanders. The first thing you said was, I don't even know how I met this guy. There's 100 people that I met gambling, drugs too. When I did drugs, like that, you're always like, "What? How did I meet this? Why am I in this house now?
mm-hmm.
Like completely vulnerable, like, and nobody knows I'm here." Kind of like these scenarios that you put yourself into.
Yeah. Oh, that's what. Yeah, because I was
oh,
living with her parents. That's what it was.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so I got kicked out of that apartment, and then her mom and stepdad were like, because she was still living at home, they're like, well, you can come stay here for a month till you get back on your feet. And I was like, perfect. And then a month turned into a year. And I was still disappearing for like weekends at a time.
So after that whole incident you described, you're still out there.
Yeah. But living with this girl and her parents, which made it extra fucked. But they just thought I was drinking, because we were young. So they're like, oh, he's just whatever. Didn't say anything. And then I was working with this guy, and me and him started partying a lot together. And then I got fired from that job. And she was like, this is good that you don't work there anymore. Because Ewan Rimmer, his name was Ian, rest in peace, Ian Rimmer. I've called him Rimmer. And she was like, you guys are not good together. And so it's good that you're not working there. And I was like, yeah. And then they hired me back because he lost his license for drinking and driving. So they hired me back to be basically his driver, essentially. And we were doing home renovations, and he was living in the compound where the shop was, in a like a camper trailer, because his girlfriend had left him. And so he was like, oh, we should get a place together. You can't live with your girlfriend's parents forever. And I was like, that's a good point, man. And so I told my girlfriend, and she was like, no, absolutely not. You're not moving in with Ian. That's a bad idea. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's your good point. Good point. But then I went ahead and put my name on a lease anyway and applied, and we got it. And so the day that we got approved for this duplex, I called her and I was like, hey, guess what? Me and Ian got a place. And she just said, don't come home tonight. Your stuff will be packed for you tomorrow. And yeah, and then she told her parents everything, and it was a shit show. Yeah. So that's why they were like, he has to
Wow,
come
dude.
apologize. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. That's like the least you could do. These are the nicest people in the world.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow. Um, was there any like, did anyone ever give you like try to give you good advice rather than like just suck it up and drink? Like, if this, like, maybe you weren't ready to hear it yet, but did you anyone try, like that was like, hey, you need to stop all this or?
Um, well, when I was in high school, um, back when I was still just drinking, that was the problem. There was a group of girls that were like good friends with, and I grew up on a farm, and I got kicked out of school for the semester, and so I would just drink all the time. And they came out to pick me up one day, and I was hammered. I'd found my mom's vodka, and I did the old classic like I'll take some vodka and refill it with water. You know what I mean? And so I basically had drank that whole bottle of vodka in the morning, and they picked me up, and they're like, "You need help." And that was the only time, I think, was like when someone was like, "You should get help." And then I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you're right, but can you give me a ride to town?" And then they took me to town, and then I just went, ditched them, and went and partied. And that was like, I'm pretty sure that was like the only time people were like, "You need to
Mm,
stop." Yeah. And I was like
yeah.
17 at the time.
Yeah. Wow. Shout out. Like, that's I don't know. I just don't think enough people do that, especially if you're 17. That's like pretty forward thinking for a 17-year-old. Because I remember in high school, everyone was just like, yeah, you drink. Like, this is what you're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool if you're drinking. Yeah. Um, what problem do you think you were actually trying to solve?
Oh man. I mean, I kind of alluded to it at the start, but it was definitely myself. Like I grew up, but wasn't raised by my biological parents. I was raised by my aunt and uncle because my mom and dad had their own addiction issues, and and so that was like a big. Oh man, I'm going through therapy right now, and I'm like learning so much. Even though like I figured all this out in early recovery, I don't know if I've properly dealt with it. I think I did the steps and whatever, and that was a big help. But now I'm going through actual therapy and being like, oh, I still have stuff to deal with, and that was one of the things. It was like, oh, I was always looking for validation, and then when I started drinking and smoking dope or smoking pot, I was like, oh, people like me. People think I'm funny. I'm getting attention, um, and then I would put myself into all these crazy situations just because I was like, people love me. People love me like this. I'm worthy when I'm drunk. Um, so yeah, that was definitely just myself, and I'm not blaming my mom and dad or my aunt and uncle or anyone for how I handled myself, um, because I made my own decisions, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was tough. Yeah.
What's a small thing someone did that helped you more than they know?
My friend Christine, Christine Ormiston, I was so when I got out of treatment, I moved into this men's recovery house here in Winnipeg called 210 Recovery. Great place. It's exactly what I needed. It's me living in a house with 14 other guys. It's a halfway house, is what it is. And it's very structured though. Like you have a chore every week. You have to go to a meeting every single day, and they give you like a little card that you have to get signed by the person chairing the meeting every single day that you go, and if you don't, you get a curfew. And it was exactly what I needed, but I was struggling, and I had made one of those had made one of those I hate this statuses on Facebook. And my friend Christine, she I don't even know if she called me. I think she just like showed up, and then I went out, and she was like, "Let's go play catch." And like that, we went to a park, and we played catch for like 2 hours, and like just talked. And then she gave me this book called "Dropping the Rock," I think, um,
Oh,
that I
wow.
did read, but I never ever gave it back to. And it's been 15 years, and she's still like every once in a while she's like, "Hey, do you still have that book?" I'm like, yeah, somewhere. I don't know
She
where,
wants
but
it back, you
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Huh. What a Christine with that. What do you catch? And then the book Dropping the Rock. I feel like she was just like throwing metaphors and
Hmm.
things for you. What kind of catch were you playing? What was the ball?
Just like a softball,
So
softball,
softball
baseball.
kind.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's classic with the glove. That is very therapeutic. I have a friend here, another comic that I used to play catch with. We don't anymore. But we used to go to the park and just throw the ball around for like 45 minutes, and it's like it's really relaxing. Like
yeah,
it's just really, it's really just like this hypnot. And you're talking, right? You were talking while you're doing it.
yeah,
Oh man, good stuff. Highly recommend catch. Yeah.
yeah,
You still friends with Christine then, right?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Nice.
actually um she started dating a guy, and then we became best friends, and he was actually best man in my wedding, and then they split up like a year or two ago, and it was kind of messy, and
Mm.
people were taking sides, and I was just like, listen, I'm gonna stay friends with both of you. Like I don't care, just don't talk about each other to me, and we'll be cool. And so that's where we're at now. It's like I'm not going to talk about the other person to them. I'm just like I was friends with her first, but then you became my best friend to the point that you're my best man at my wedding. So I'm obviously not, you know, yeah, it's tricky
Yeah,
sometimes. So,
it's a rough one. Yeah. What song best describes your addiction?
man, I was thinking about this last night. I gotta go with "Kickstart My Heart" by Motley Crue, probably, because that
Right.
was yeah. I mean, that was I loved that song back then. I went to Motley Crue like 3 times to watch them live, and like that song was just like that was me. It was like once you put a drink in my hand or whatever, I was like, let's fucking go until we can't go anymore. And I think that's I think that describes my addiction.
And isn't that song like about Vince Neil dying and then bringing him back or something? Like they like literally EK or what is it called? The what are those
Oh
pedals
yeah,
called?
the defibrillator.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty. That's what it's about, right? Like he
I
was
think so.
dead.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, my buddy works on their tour,
Oh no way.
so I've seen them live. I saw them at their Vegas residency maybe 2 3 months ago, whatever. They're awesome. They're like
Yeah,
really good. I mean, Vince Neil's had a lot of health issues recently, but it was really good, man.
yeah.
Um, highly recommend. Even I'm not even that in the Motley Crew. Like it's just my friend was like, I like them. I was, but I wasn't like I got it. And I was like, I wore Shakira's shirt to be a smartass to the concert, and then I was like, it was funny. People thought, as a comedian, they're like, why do you have a Shakira shirt? Because I like Shakira. What's wrong? Okay, but great concert, 5 stars. Motley Crue. I don't know if they're still doing that. They're done with that residency. But what's the dumbest excuse you've ever told yourself to justify your addiction?
I'm young. That was that was
Yeah.
that was my main thing. Every single time was I'm young. I'm young, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Um, which is wrong. Which is big time wrong. Because I look at like a lot of my friends who were partying with me, like were set up for their like they were still responsible. They were saving money. They were going to work, and I wasn't. I was just like I when I moved to Winnipeg, I got a job at this garage with a buddy, and we got paid on Thursdays. And thank God that the owner was like a nice guy and he found it funny. But like it was a running joke. It was like every second Friday, is Chad gonna show up? Because we're getting paid Thursday night. Is Chad gonna show up Friday? And I was like, no, I'm not. You already know I'm not gonna show up. And guess what? By Saturday, my paycheck is gonna be gone too. So yeah,
Yeah. It's amazing how um, that should be studied. Just like how are addicts able to, man, I the same thing. On my paycheck or whatever, if I get paid in some scenario or another, um, it's gambled. I'll pay maybe a few bills. Maybe I'll pay a cell phone bill just to keep it on or something. And then you're like, well, I'm out of money for however long, and then you manage to get by somehow. It's, well, not always. Then people end up homeless or dead or whatever. But the ability to keep that going is, I don't know, not to be commended. I'm just saying it's interesting. It's like,
yeah.
it just goes to show you addicts are, I don't know. One time I've heard someone say addicts are smart. I'm like, I don't know if that is you can't say all addicts are smart. It's only smart people that are addicts. Like I've met some dumb fucking addicts.
Yeah.
Resourceful, sure. Like
Yeah.
you want to say,
Tenacious.
yeah,
Yeah.
tenacious. That's a good one. Tenacious. What do you think is the worst addiction?
Oh, fuck. Probably attention, honestly. Attention or like just self. I feel like, and I don't want to be a deep. I'm not one of these guys who's like a deep thinker. I'm a comedian. But I do think like it's the need for attention or for validation is probably one of the worst things.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what I've found for myself. It's like anytime I'm searching or seeking out that outside validation, I'm not in a healthy place, which is a rich thing to say as someone whose job is to search out that validation on a nightly basis. But
yeah, and of course I'm a comedian, so I'm going to defend it a little bit too. But there is some of that it is definitely negative. But I think it's been ramped up with social media because anyone can post on any of these platforms, and you might not get a million views, but you're still going to get some. That's still attention. That's still somebody looking at it, and that is very addictive to people, I think. And I haven't met like a really successful influencer yet that is happy. Like these influencers that are, and that's not to say that, I know they're to be really good at it, to get, have millions of followers and that you have to be putting in a lot of work and stuff. I'm not saying it's just like, oh, fuck, these guys are doing that. But it seems like a real, like, unsatisfying life. And that's coming again from a comedian who this is a big part of our.
I know.
But I don't know. I'd like to say that I'd like to feel like that. No, but our jokes are crafted. It's art, people. What one word would you use to describe your addiction?
Chaos for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking back. I used to think it's funny because like I would tell like my girlfriend at the time when I was living in that active addiction, I'd be like, oh, well, it's not my fault. It's Jared's fault or it's Ryan's fault. They had it. I wasn't going to, but they're bad influences on me, But then I got sober and I looked at those Jareds and those Ryans and, and I'm like, oh, they're all doing well though. They're all fine. Maybe I was the bad influence, and I was just like, and again, yeah, I was just like gone for weekends or like 5 days at a time or just like borrowing money from my parents. I remember I called home. This is what set me onto the path of recovery is I called home to ask my aunt to borrow some money. I say borrow, I was never going to pay it back. But to call for money and my sister was there and she answered and she's older than me. And I was like, oh, hey, is Auntie home? And she was like, yeah, why? What do you need? I was like, I just need to talk to her. And she was like, yeah, but what do you need? And I was like, oh, I need some money for rent. My rent's due on Friday and I don't get paid till next week. And she was like, well, don't you have a full-time job? And I was like, yeah, but I don't get paid till next week. She's like, so if you get paid next week, that means you got paid last week? And I was like, well, yeah. And she was like, so then why don't you have any money left? Don't you work like 12-hour days? Because at the time I was. That's also the crazy thing is when I was working at that construction company, I was like, I worked for 3 months straight, like 10 to 12-hour days and still partied every night. I don't know how I'm alive, but yeah. And so I was like, well, yeah, but I had other bills to pay. She was like, what other bills? And I was like, well, let me just talk to her. And then she said, you're just like our dad. And that was like the knife twisting in my soul. Like, you're just like our dad. Not that I didn't love my dad or like, but like that was where I was like, oh no. Oh no.
That's the kryptonite to an addict is like somebody like your aunt or it was your aunt you were saying, right? Or
my sister.
You're saying, yeah, somebody that just starts asking you questions and breaking down your whole thing, like rationally. But you got paid last week, right? Yeah, but bills this week.
I know, and
Jeez.
it's like 2008. What are my bills back then? I had a pay as you go phone and rent. Those were my two bills.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
car,
Just give me the
no children.
money. I need the money.
Yeah.
What about one word to describe your recovery?
Probably also chaos. Probably. I was, yeah, especially in early recovery. I mean, I was always I was always mad about something. Um, I I blew up a lot and like broke stuff and like screamed at people. We used to like have these house meetings once a week, and I like and I was like seeking out those like exchanges where I would get to be mad at someone. Like I remember there was this older guy who was an ex-military guy, and he was living in the house, and I think he fought in Bosnia is where he went, and so like he had like he'd seen some shit, and the phone rang, and I was like, no, it's a house meeting, and I picked up the phone and just like hung it up, and he got mad. Don't do that, don't do that. It could be important. I was like, yeah, but we're in a house meeting. And he was like, yeah, but just let it go to the voicemail in case it's an important call for someone. And I was like, yeah, okay, Mark. And then like as he said that, the phone rang again, and I looked into his eyes and picked the phone
Right.
up and dropped it, and like, and then it just like we exploded at each other, and I was like, "Fuck you, you piece of shit," and he was like, "Fuck you, I'm not a piece of shit. Your whole family's a piece of shit." And I stood up and I was like, "You want to go?" And then he stood up and he was like, "I'll put you in the dirt." And then I was like, "Oh, military guy, yeah, he's gonna murder you." Like,
Yeah, you picked the wrong thing.
yeah,
But you were doing it on purpose. That's what you're saying, right? I mean,
yeah,
you were. I mean, subconsciously, you were like, "Yeah, I'll do this." He might
yeah,
have been too. I mean, it sounds like you're in this house where just tempers are high. But yeah, yeah, that's the wrong guy to deal that with for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, trained. He's like a trained.
Trained to kill, and I'm like, "Oh, let's go,
Yeah,
man." Yeah,
yeah. I play video games. All right, like look at this headset. Think I don't know how to kill somebody? I know how to kill somebody. Um, what's your proudest moment in recovery so far?
um, not going back for sure. I I carried a lot of guilt when I started smoking weed again. Even though I had thought about it for a while. I talked it over with my wife. I mean, we're still just dating at the time, but we had talked it over, um, and I was like, yeah, I want to try it, and I feel like I'm at a place where like if it gets to be a problem, I have you to recognize her. She was gonna tell me, and I was like, I think I'm stable and I'm in a good place. Like, I don't think it will be in it. Thankfully, it has not been. But not going back to that, like needing it every single day, not going back to disappearing on to people who care and love me, not spending all my money on an 8 ball that's gonna last me an hour. You know what I mean? It's just like it's every day that I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad that I'm not there still. Because I'd also like that's 15 years ago. I think I would be dead by now if I didn't get help. I would for sure. I'd be dead or I'd be in jail. Yeah,
And you have kids?
I have one kid. Yeah,
I heard a kid earlier, and I was like, I thought that was your kid. So, well, I mean, that's like another thing. You wouldn't have a kid, and you wouldn't have. I mean, all these things. And thank God you didn't have a kid back then, because I mean, not that you can't get through it, but you were in a
yeah,
the better portion of your life to
and
raise a
I'm
kid. So
yeah, and I'm like I'm thankful that I got clean early. Like I think I was 23. Um, I'm thankful that I got clean back then. It's funny, like doing and I had done stand up before I got clean, and so when I was in treatment, I was like, oh, stand up is the only thing that I've ever been like passionate and like look forward to it, and like I'm like want to do it all the time. And so when I was in treatment, I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just pursue this stupid thing, and I think that also helped my recovery early on. Is like I'm like a month sober going to an open mic in a basement bar in Winnipeg, and everyone's hammered, and I'm just there doing my set. And for the first little while, I would go in, do my set, and then leave immediately because I was like, I don't want to be tempted, But then I was like, okay, I'm around this, and I'm okay. I've been around it. I'm around it at least twice a week, because we only had 2 open mics at that time. I was like, there's at least 2 nights a week where I'm in a bar, I'm around people who are boozing, and I'm fine. And so I think that helped me a lot because I think some people struggle because they get sober and then they're just like, I can't be around it. I can't be around people who use. I can't be around, and which is
Yeah.
true. But I think that then they like spend all this time avoiding those situations, and then the first time they get into that situation, they're like, oh no. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And were you immediately good when you went to the open mic, just like Will Arnett is in this new movie? Is this thing on? I haven't seen the
No.
movie yet. To be fair, I have not seen the movie. Is this thing on? I think it's Will Arnett, Bradley
Yeah.
Cooper. I've not seen it, but from the previews, it looks like he's going through a divorce. He just walks into an open mic, and then all of a sudden now he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing comedy now." And it's like, I fucking hate movies about stand up. I haven't
Mhm.
seen it yet. I'm gonna have to, but from what I can tell is it's going to make comedy look easy. Like, yeah, you're just going through something. You get up there, you start talking, and next thing you know, and he's at the Comedy Cellar or whatever he's in the movie. I'm like, get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here.
Um,
So
I wasn't my first time doing stand up. I was so nervous. I signed. I was at Rumors Comedy Club. They had an amateur night. I signed up, wrote my material. My 2 buddies drove me, and then I was like, we got to the top of the stairs to go down into the club, and I sat down, and I was like, "Duh, I don't think I'm gonna do it, guys. I'm not gonna do it." And then my buddy Ryan and Dennis, they're like, "No, dude, we drove you here. Like, we're gonna carry you in there if we have to. We need to see this." And so we went in, and yeah, that was like definitely the turning point of my life where I was like so nervous. My buddy said like you could visibly see me shaking on stage when I was doing my opening joke, and then the crowd laughed, and he was like, "Dude, it was like your body stopped shaking, and you were like in it, and it was a pretty good set. I'm sure if it was recorded, I'd watch it and be like, oh, that sucks. But like, I remember being like, oh wow, I just I made these people laugh. This is my, and like that, just like that. Like,
yeah, I've watched some early sets of mine not too long ago, like pretty early, like really early. And I think anyone that has made it to a point like where you're at, or I'm at, like where you're a working comic and you've made money doing comedy on tour. I think if you went back and watched your first or second sets, like what would really stick out is the pacing and timing would
mhm.
be awful. Like and confidence would be shaking. But I still think you can see in there like a premise or this or that or even a punchline. You're like, oh yeah, that's funny because I mean I there's when I do my monthly show here at the at the Improv, the Shawsome Show,
Mhm.
sponsored by Comedy Records. The what do you call it? There's the open mic lab work going on before that, and those, to be fair, are a little bit more advanced than just an open mic because it's at the Improv. But there's still some pretty
Mhm.
rough sets. But I mean, I listen to about half an hour, 45 minutes, and you're like, oh, that person's funny. I mean, they don't know what they're doing yet, but they're funny. And so I
Yeah.
think that that's pretty universal. Like, but Will Arnett, I guess he's perfect. No, I'm fucking with him. He's just up there like he's like Louis C.K. all of a sudden. What's the worst advice someone gave you while you were struggling?
My friend, this is while I was still in active addiction, and my buddy and his girlfriend gave me. I was homeless. I think this might have been the first time I was homeless. They gave me a place to stay, and then kicked me out after a month. But I think we had just gotten paid. We'd worked together. We just gotten paid, and then I was broke already, like 2 days later, and I was like feeling sorry for myself. And he's like, "Bro, man, why don't you just don't buy it?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Just don't buy Coke." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Just do what I do, bro." He's like, "Just only do it if someone offers it to you." And I was like, "That's stupid." Like, I was like, how do you do that though? Like, because if someone offers it to me, I'm gonna take it, and then immediately I need my own. So like, that's not an option, you idiot.
Started off good advice. You're
Yeah,
like, yeah, just don't do it, which is not practical, maybe. I mean, yeah, it's just like a slogan, but then he was like, yeah, I just do it if somebody, yeah. Um, what advice? This is the last question. What advice do you have for someone that is struggling?
get busy. Honestly, I think that is another thing that like helped me is like I was just constantly busy in early recovery, whether it was with like um, AA programming and getting involved in the fellowship and working on the steps and talking with a sponsor or just like hanging out with other AA people. Like I was constantly busy. And then, and then I had all that. And then I was writing my jokes and I was going to the open mics and like I was just I was constantly on the go and putting in work. And I think that is like the most important thing. Not the most important thing. The most important thing is to like realize you have the problem, but it's like you got to put in the work. You can't sit there and feel sorry for yourself and then you're magically going to be cured or better. Like you got you have the problem, put in the work, listen to the people who have done the work and have had sobriety, um, or and and just continually push forward even when you don't think that you can, because you can push forward, and there are people out there who know exactly how you're feeling. You just need to find them, and and chances are, especially now in 2026, like if you have a problem, an addiction or alcohol or whatever, it's not going to be hard to find people who are willing to help you because it's not as stigmatized anymore, which I think is amazing. Yeah, yeah, that's my
Yeah.
just do the work.
Yeah. Well put. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Chad. Everybody, his new album, it's live at Lucci's, right? Not Lucy's.
Oh, it's Lucy's.
Oh, it's Lucy's. I said it
It is
wrong
Lucy's.
first.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Live at Lucy's, Luci.
yeah.
Apostrophe S. Chad Anderson, live at Lucy's. It comes out January 16th, 3 days from now on Comedy Records. Go check that out. Listen to Chad. And then you go to his website, chadanderson.net, or at Chad Ilmatic on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, X, Facebook, Chad Anderson. Thanks for being here, Chad.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks again to Chad Anderson for being on this episode. And thanks to all of you for listening and being a part of this podcast. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio or whatever. And leave a comment. Right now, I had some comments the other day. I was excited. And it was just a guy that told me my thumbnails suck. In so many words. You need good thumbnails? You give them to me. I'll give you some good thumbnails and this podcast will take off. Now, they usually start with like a compliment. Great content. Shut up. If you feel like donating to the podcast, you can go to my website, forrest.net. On the podcast section, there's a donate button. Thank you to everybody that has donated. And slide on over to the shows and come out and see me on a show. What do I got coming up here? When does this come out? On this weekend, I'll be on the road with Jim Jeffries. But the following weekend, January 24th, if you're in the LA area, I will be doing the Ocean Hates You show at the Upstairs Comedy Club on January 24th. Then on February 5th, I will be performing the same show, The Ocean Hates You, at Mike Mania, Chandler, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix. So if you're in the Phoenix area, please come out to Mike Mania in Chandler, Arizona. See The Ocean Hates You on February 5th. And then February 6th and 7th, I'll be in Chicago at Comedyplex in Oak Park. And then I will be in Australia, February 17th through March 1st. I'll be in Adelaide at the Howling Owl every night, except for Monday the 23rd. I'll be at the Howling Owl at 7:15 p.m. doing the Ocean Hates You show. And then March 4th through the 7th, I'll be at the Comics Lounge in Melbourne. I will be running regular stand-up show for all of those nights except one, and I believe it is March 7th, but I'm trying to get that link up. Hopefully by the time this podcast is up, that link will be up there. I've got other shows, like I'll be in Las Vegas after that. I'll be in Lake Tahoe in April. I'll be in Florida at the end of April and Green Turtle Inn. Go to forrest.net. All the dates are up there. Appreciate you guys listening. As always, if you're feeling suicidal, you might harm yourself, 988 in US and Canada. And there are other numbers. You can go to the Wikipedia page, list of suicide crisis lines, and reach out to somebody, or just throw it on Facebook like our guest Chad did. Maybe somebody will reach out to you there, but do reach out to somebody. That is the theme, as always. I will talk to you guys next week. Love y'all.